From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall. Great show tonight on Tuesday night. Hope you will participate in the show. A great opportunity, really. We're going to be talking about wills, estate planning. How do you care for someone who is getting older? Say you have a mom or dad, they're getting older. How do you plan for what is happening financially and all of the other obstacles you may face? Happy to have with us someone who is often here and can answer these questions. Tim Takacs.
Often here, yes, once a month. Yes,
thank you for coming back.
Yes, definitely. Glad to be back.
And we always talk about, wills and the nursing home part of it and trusts, should you set up a trust? All of these things, it's good to talk about. But what are you seeing come through your doors here of late?
What we're seeing a lot of is that we're seeing a lot of maybe people 60s and 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds that are coming into the office because they want to do estate planning, but they really want to do it sort of like with, I'll call it maybe a twist, but it's kind of like, all right, I have money, I've got property, I've got enough to live on for more than enough to live on for the rest of my life, but I would like to maybe set it aside in a trust, as we call it like asset protection. Because they still worry about paying for the nursing home. They can't buy long-term care insurance because maybe they're too old or they've got some medical problems that means they can't get it. So, they're what you might refer, the post-retirement, but pre-elderly, I guess, in a way. We were talking about that a little bit about before they become, old sick people. Now they're like not quite old sick people, but maybe have a little bit of something wrong with them. So we're starting to see a lot more of that.
Biggest mistake people make is they don't plan.
Right. Exactly.
And so it's an opportunity. And that's what we can do tonight. It's an opportunity to put down on paper some just basic steps that can really make a huge difference, save a lot of money. Because what people are wanting to do is not lose all their money to a nursing home or to the government, I guess, right?
Right, or that's certainly that's a perception that people have, and in some ways there's some truth to that because, you're in the nursing home, and let's say that you're either paying privately $7,000–8,000 a month, and then you run out of money, and then you go to TennCare, Medicaid program, and they start paying the bill, and then if you own a house at your death, the Medicaid comes in and says, well, we get that first before anybody else does. And that's certainly the worst case scenario, and that's certainly not what everybody or most people can expect when they get older. But at the same time, it happens enough, for people who are not planning and are not deciding to do something where it's like, okay, you exercise a little bit of ordinary prudence or foresight, I guess. I mean, we were talking also about like being an older person. It's like, okay, being older is merely a state that maybe you and I haven't gotten there yet. Maybe we're sort of somewhat semi-near elderly or old, but then you have older people and they're just a little bit further along than you and I are. Or anybody else perhaps who's maybe our age or, who is a near retirement age. I won't say you're near retirement, but
right. And they're lucky to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a privilege.
It is a privilege to be older.
And we already have a couple calls, but I want to, before we take those, I want to set up a scenario that I bet we'll hear, and it'll help maybe people think along these lines. Let's say I want to make sure that my kids get whatever money I've saved.
Right.
And I don't want, and I keep throwing out nursing home, but it's whatever. I want to make sure they have it. Right. So what about just giving it to them? Putting it in a, is that when you put it in a trust?
You may put it into a trust. I mean, we very seldom, I can't remember the last time I've advised a client, and an older client, and said, well, why don't you just give your money to your kids?
Put it in their name.
Right.
And everyone says, well, I trust them.
Right. And I know that I've said this before is that, okay, you're giving it to the most unreliable people on the planet.
Your children.
Your children. And because, and I know some people may take offense to that, but what happens is that, children have good intentions, or they may have good intentions, and they seem to, but the fact of the matter is that bad things happen to children too. And or maybe children's children, or children's, or it goes on down the line, and then suddenly it's like, well, Mom, Dad, that money that you gave me to hold for you, well, my daughter had to go to college, or she had to get braces, or something happened, where it ends up, it's like that money has gone away, or somebody dies before the parent does, and then, you do this often enough or long enough, like I have, 1 out of every 200 cases, a child is going to predecease a parent, and so you have to plan for that. It's not likely to happen, but if you assume it's not going to happen, that's when,
And I know there are people that say, well, I want the child to hold it.
Right.
And I trust the child, and they'll put it in a separate account or whatever. But and I use this one a lot. What if they're in a car accident and they're sued? Once you've given it to them, then it can be, they can go after
that belongs to, and the way I put it is that you give money or your proper money to your child, and the child goes down the road and hits a bus full of school children, and your child can't tell the parents of those children, no, that's not really my money, I'm just holding it for my parents. It doesn't work that way. And that's why, we set money aside in a trust if the plan is that in fact that you do that, that the intention is to hold it for parents. There are legal ways and right ways to do that, so the money is protected.
So that's what we want to talk about.
That's really what we're talking about, is protecting it, and what are the right ways to do that, and what are the pitfalls, of maybe doing it informally, because it may work out, but it may not.
Yeah, there are ways to do it. Okay, let's go to Linda. Hello, Linda.
Yes.
Hi, what's on your mind?
Yes, I would like to ask a question. A 69-year-old male, his children are taking advantage of him. He's only got like 10% of his heart working. And I was just wondering, they're getting him to sign notes, and then of course they're not making payments on these items.
Right.
And it's breaking him, but yet he's on oxygen, all these heart meds. He's only got 10% of his heart working. He's got a pacemaker in. He's not able to work.
Right. See, now the question I would have there, and I'm going to assume that Linda's talking about somebody that she knows and maybe cares about. Maybe it's a parent or somebody. But the question I would have there is that, are they taking advantage of him, or does he know what's going on? Linda feels apparently that maybe he's being taken advantage of, but she's also told us some things that maybe are sort of telling. He's got 10% of his heart. He's maybe not long for this world. How much money does he have? Does he have more than enough that he knows that he's got enough money to take care of himself for the rest of his life? Does he recognize that, yes, I am being taken advantage of, but I do want to do these things for my children? Or is he being taken advantage of by people who are not the natural objects of his bounty? That's a little bit different. Are we talking about maybe distant relatives, people who, so there's when we're talking about what is referred to as elder financial abuse, that could be, that takes a lot of shapes and forms, and frankly, most elder financial abuse, the majority of cases, at least as I understand the statistics, it occurs by people who know the victim.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds to me, I would take that as, they're saying sign here, and he's kind of not all there, and he's signing here.
Right. And the question is, does he know what he's signing? Is this what he wants to do? And those are really troublesome cases, because oftentimes victims don't want to be, maybe they realize that they are being taken advantage of, but if they are seen as victims, and let's say by the authorities, then what happens to them?
They could be.
They lose their rights. They wind up in court. A judge appoints a conservatorship for them. They lose control over their money and their property and where they live and what they do. It's like, so what's worse? Now, I would say that, you know, it's pretty bad, you know, when you have essentially that's people stealing from them. You know, which is why I'm saying is in some cases like that, you know, there are ways in which we can maybe minimize the likelihood of elder financial abuse if we can get to it, or we can get to people that know and care about the victim or the potential victim. Maybe we do set assets aside in a trust. Maybe the elder has, you know, a trusted family member who, you know, that serves as a trustee, you know, that has, you know, legal responsibilities to the older person. I mean, so there are a lot of ways in which we can set something up so that, you know, that we can minimize the likelihood of elder financial abuse.
All right, that's a good call. Thank you, Linda. We have to take a
yeah.
break. We have several people on the line. Taylor, Mary, others. Hold on.
Yeah,
we will get to your
definitely.
call.
Yeah.
We'll take a break. Be back right after this.